What's up, hackers burning the midnight oil? My name is Jexx, and today we're going to talk about love. Just kidding, we're going to be going over the last iTab stream, which there are some things I want to share about it. It was really fun. One, we got to go through a web challenge that's similar to a Tinder-like application called OnlyHacks.
Hence the love.
Two, we actually found a bug live that we didn't intend to really share with anybody, but hey, now you get to see it. And three, we did a marble challenge with our people in chat. So if you do come out, we are going to start incorporating more live challenges for chat to interact with. So now join us and feel the love with OnlyHacks.
Okay, we're in it.
Sometimes this can be really daunting getting to like this point, and a lot of people haven't had experience with like looking at challenges. So like this is why we're kind of like starting from the beginning, because they are different than, you know, a Sherlock, or they are different than setting up like a machine. So since we're already at the beginning,
But yeah, to talk about the challenge, you know, to get the boring but important out of the way is scope. You know, whenever you do these challenges, it's a little different than like a traditional hack the box machine where you're given an IP address, run an nmap, looking for exposed services on different ports that live on that host, or that are exposed on that host. A challenge is more similar or more akin to like a pen test, or even like a bug bounty scope, where scope is very important. The idea of scope creep is bad, right? You want to be very cognizant of what you're targeting. And when it comes to the specific scope, you can see under the host section here, this is it. We're just targeting this specific host and looking at the service that exists just on this specific port, 34767. And so we're not going to run nmap on this. I mean, we could if you want to fingerprint the server and determine like, or do like some banner grabbing of what service is running. But when we interact this via a browser and then proxy that traffic through your interception proxy of choice, so burp in this case, you'll be able to see the server version headers and all the details there. So it kind of abstracts that. You wouldn't need to run nmap in this case. We're just going to stick to that specific scope.
For me, like I personally, I have an IP address. I want to go and I want to figure out what ports are open. And now just having that and getting to the site, it felt really like daunting for me, because I get here and I'm just presented a login page. At that point in time, my mind is like, okay, that's the kind of moment where the clip like hangs on my neck and I'm like the Siamese cat just going limp, like, but I've kind of walked that back to an identity of being able to take things step by step. What do I have? I have a login page. What happens on a login page? I give it a username and a password. But the first thing I would try is like, I don't know, did the admin change the default password? That's what I did first. Got nothing. That's the extent of my knowledge. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I can leave now.
No, that's exactly it though. It's funny. It's like web app. I feel like web app, even if as you learn how to tackle different web app vulns, like targeting a full-fledged web application is so daunting. When you have a full application and you're like, where do I start? Like, how do I begin? And we'll kind of walk through that a little bit today, like how I personally like to tackle these apps. Obviously, this is gonna be a smaller target, but we're gonna still tackle it with the same methodology. You have a whole bunch of different frameworks, a whole bunch of different tech stacks, but at the end of the day, it is requests and responses. You have requests, you have control over, and you have a response that's returned, and that's it. And so as long as you understand that, it becomes a lot more approachable. Definitely a good call out there. But you're right, login panel. So put the target in, and like you mentioned, this is like a Tinder-based application where love is the ultimate life hack. And I have burp on the right, target on the left. So what we're gonna do is just to kind of clean this up a little bit, I'm gonna right click and I'm just gonna add this specific host to scope. So that way, if we go to our target, we'll be able to see that this is the only scope. And what we could do is we could filter this. If I click on this little filter, I like to click show all at first because sometimes it hides script or it hides like images. I like to see everything, but then I'll click show all and then show only in scope items. And actually you click show all and then show only in scope items and then apply. And then now I'm seeing every single resource, but just from my target. Just going here and logging in twice sent all of these requests. So you can see all the requests and the responses. So there's a lot already, a decent amount already. Close these.
I feel like a lot of this is just going to be sifting the information that we need.
So, okay, you have the requests and responses. It's all cataloged here. So as soon as we go to the web root, we can see it redirects us to /dashboard. A lot of things we're seeing here already. You just see the raw request on the left, raw response on the right. It redirects us to dashboard, and that's where you have the full HTML. When I sent that login request, that admin, you can see that request here. I'm going to bump this up just a bit, and it sent a very basic host request, username admin, password admin. That's not using a JSON object. It's just www URL encoded, super simple post request. And we could see that we weren't logged in. Now, there's a lot going on here. I won't dive too heavy yet. I think what's important, like I have something that's commented out here too, but this is just a partial. Anyway, one of the things I like to look at first and foremost whenever it comes to like tackling these challenges is I like to just tackle it without doing any crazy fuzzing. I'm not gonna lie though, I still get tempted to do like admin, or you like single quote and A equals A or something like that. But I like to just kind of look at the whole app holistically, just as a normal user would. And then from there, start making it do weird things or triggering error conditions, things of that nature. Okay, so we created an account. We could see the dashboard. Dashboard matches, likes, don't like. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna like everybody because we're not gonna discriminate here. We're just gonna go ahead and click through.
Let's go.
Start liking everybody. Okay, let's see here. So we can see there's a whole bunch of requests being sent. And I like to keep an eye on this. I like to look at my browser, but also burp at the same time to look at what the requests look like, both via the UI, but also the raw request. Sweet. Okay, cool. So yeah, we have this. So we have that we were able to like things. So if you go back to dashboard, let's see if there's anything there. There's no one else to like. There's matches. So we have the ability to interact with any matches that exist. So it does show a match. We have Renata. Click on Renata. It looks like there's a couple things that pop up. We have chat with an RID value with an ID, which looks great. That's definitely piques my interest. So and then we can go ahead and interact with Renata here to see what that does. And it looks like it sends some type of WebSockets message outward, and then we receive a response, which is the actual response itself. And it looks like that is like the entirety of the application, at least that we could see from the UI.
The matches where we're focusing, right, for the majority of the rest of this, since I'm looking at it and I'm like, oh, the two things that are in my mind, I see something in the URL, I see something that I can utilize, the chat. Those were like the two things that I was just like, but what do I do? We've done the kind of walkthrough. Where did you go from there?
For the most part, it's the inputs, any input fields. So post requests, get requests, right? You think about it traditionally, get requests, retrieve data, post requests, submit some type of data to the application, and then something is done with it, and then there's a response. That's not always the case. There are sometimes certain get requests that in theory could have parameters that would influence the response you're getting. But I like to look at requests that have parameters that I have control over. So in this case, login. And what I like to do, I like to take it, send it to repeater, and then it'd be like, boom, rename it, login. This is the request that I'm going to start testing because I want to test username and password. Another one is, for example, register. Send it to repeater. I want to test the registration functionality. So I'm going to go register, right? Same with like. We said like was another one. So like, this is going to be the like functionality. And you can color code these. Burp has the beautiful ability to be able to control things via tabs. You have different repeater tabs now. One big one that popped out in my head immediately, chat. For me personally, if I see any type of request parameter, whether it be in the URL, whether it be in the post body or in the body of the request, I should say, that's where I like to fuzz. But that doesn't necessarily mean the header should be ignored too. There's different header-based attacks, there's cookie-based attacks, but you got to start somewhere. Don't overwhelm yourself. What I want to do is I want to do some automation with some manual stuff happening at the same time. So I want to fuzz this. I want to do some directory enumeration. So what we'll do is I'll quickly pull up just some type of list. So what we'll do is we'll send this to intruder with Control I, or you can right click and send to intruder. And I'm just going to fuzz here. So there's a couple ways we could do directory enumeration. I could use burp professional or burp community, which can take forever. I can use a tool like GoBuster, Dirbuster, things of that nature, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add this as my injection point, and I already highlighted and clicked add. And I'll just do payloads. I think I'm going to go ahead and we'll do, instead of simple list, we'll do runtime file. So we'll load a file here, and we're going to go to up. We'll go to hack the box. We'll go to OnlyHacks. Intruder, and that's what it does. Intruder is a really useful tool within Burp Suite to just help with fuzzing. The reason I like using Intruder personally is visually, I can dynamically change how I'm looking at this data. When you deal with like GoBuster and things of that nature, you have to either parse it a certain way or do a new command, whereas with Burp Suite, I can just click on status code. Now I'm organizing by status code top down, or if I want to organize by length. And what I'm looking for is just deviations from the norm. So deviations from a 404 or 200, right? So two of these exist. This chat one is a redirect. There's so many different deviations. So we know anything that's not a 404 is going to be existing. And in this case, I'm just using a raft word list. We're not using any extensions. We're keeping it very benign. And I'm gonna let this run in the background. We actually got a 500 on matches, which is interesting. I think that's because technically matches expects a post request. And so since we send a get request, the server isn't configured to handle that. So it returns a server error is my interpretation based off of looking at that. But yeah, so we're gonna let this run. I like doing manual stuff while doing automated stuff. Immediately something pops up. This is cool. RID is very interesting. And so if we render this, if we click render in the response, it should render our chat, right? And if we look, we could search for something like Renata. What I like to do is I like to use Burp's match and replace tool to kind of help me easily visualize things. So if I go ahead and paste this, H5, I click on the gear and go to auto scroll to match when text changes. Every time I send my request, I will now see the user's name or the person's name that I'm talking to. I'm seeing Renata. And so if I change this to a 1, for example, and let's say I got a hit and not an internal server error, in theory, it would just automatically scroll to that specific user, right? Or to that area that would show me, this is who I'm talking to. And you mentioned like insecure direct object reference, IDOR. We could do this manually, or we can use intruder, but I can go through and just change this ID, like you mentioned. If we get a pop, if we get something that hits, there's a chance that, oh, the ID has changed. Maybe there's something there. So, okay. So in this case, we did get something that hit. Let's see if this is anything different. Now it's still Renata. So it looks like it's still the same person, but the RID has changed. Oh, okay. Well, so you can see the name has changed, but the actual text, or the name is the same, but the text has changed. And so if we look at this RID value, we changed it to 3. Let's see what that looks like. So there we go.
Hey.
So we technically got the flag. So yes, in this case, there is an insecure direct object reference issue where we can access other chats via the ID. So yeah, login. We can do a quick login here. So we know a known good request, right? Gar and password is password, right? And so there's a couple things that we could check for here, right? First and foremost, these are the two parameters that I can mess with, right? What happens if I just don't send a password? What does it do? Well, the application isn't configured to not have a password not sent. And so in this case, it returns a 400 bad request, right? Well, let's say obviously I send a blank password. 302 found. What's happening here? Wait a minute.
Wait,
I didn't test this.
Okay.
Wait, why is this just working? Because this gave me a session token.
Does it not need a password?
It might not need a password. Let's go ahead and hold on. Hold on.
Wait.
Hold on. Give me a sec. Hold on, y'all. So
Mod
okay, so here we go. Let's go ahead and let's sign up. This was not. I did not know this is a thing. No password. We're gonna make the password something complicated. All right, we do need a profile picture. I've tested this.
Okay.
We'll go back to profile logo. So we're gonna log in as let's log in as who do we want from chat? We'll do Fixit because Fixit was banned on by Nightbot, so some type of retribution.
Nightbot, cursed Nightbot.
Sick. Okay, so we found another vulnerability, Jexx.
What?
The vulnerability is an authentication bypass where it doesn't actually validate that the password is existent. And so this is another vulnerability that we found from a web app perspective that doesn't necessarily get us the flag, but we can bypass authentication and log in as whoever. So for example, let's say Demetrius was an actual person. Okay. Oh, I can drag it. That's pretty sick. Oh, sick. Okay, so now we're just Demetrius. Hold on. So now, yeah, Demetrius is an actual application user. So if I go to storage, we can go ahead and take Demetrius's cookie, and now we're Demetrius, and now we found, oh, you know what, just in case, let's just go to matches. And here we are. So yeah, we found an auth bypass. This is another way that you're able to get the flag that I had no idea about until just now, which is kind of sick.